Hey guys, it's Allan Whatmore here, and in today's video, I'm going to run you through how you can use open-ended questions to be able to understand the root core concerns and questions that people have about your product or your service so that you can go through them, explain it to them better, and as a result, help more people and close more clients. So what I see people often doing, and I'm going to give you a really simple example, is they'll run through their pitch. They'll explain their service or they'll explain their product, and then once they've gone, they'll say, okay, do you have any questions about there? Like what I've just said? Any questions you've got? Does that sort of make sense? And most instances, people are going to be like, no questions. Just send me an email if you can, with some information and I'll have a look at it and I'll come back to you. And a lot of people actually do that, right? They send that email and then they never hear from them again. They follow up. And the real reason is that there was a breakdown somewhere here originally. So the person had some sort of core concern or some sort of question that they wanted to ask, or they didn't know it because they weren't in a position to think critically, or they might have been embarrassed. They didn't want to sound stupid, which is completely understandable, or it just wasn't front of mind. They couldn't quite put their finger on it. And so if you do this, okay, and if you use close-ended questions, this is a close-ended question, right? The yes or no question. Do you have any questions? Is there any information I can send you? Is there anything I can do for you? A lot of the time, this is the sort of typical response you're going to get. No questions. You might get some people that say to you, okay, yes, I have a question about this, but you're not rooting out all those questions, okay? And that's typically what you want to do, because sometimes the service that you're offering is really complex, right? Like if you're a financial advisor and you're trying to explain to people how you're going to improve their performance or change up their asset allocation or put them into a new fund or something along that lines, the process that you go through can be quite sophisticated. So of course, people are going to have lots of questions, right? Especially if they've never done it before, especially if they're not from the industry. So what you want to do is I want you to focus on using open-ended questions specifically. So once you've gone through it, specifically, what questions have you got for me about how we manage your investments? How does that land with you? What's your thoughts on this so far? What specifically, let's say if somebody asks you a very broad question, so for example, how do you manage my super? Okay, there's so much, from this, right? How do you manage your super? There's the fund, investments, beneficiaries, SMSF, yada, yada. It's so broad. So you don't want to go in scattergun hoping that you're going to find it. So you want to use open-ended questions. What specifically would you like to know more of? What questions do you have for me? And you're getting them to think, right? And you're doing this in their best interest because you truly want to understand what questions or concerns or gaps in their knowledge do they have about your process and your structure or the service that you provide to them, okay? If you do this and focus on this and you are in a position where you are able to stay in this is what I call the post-pitch process, right? Once you've gone through your process to ask these open-ended questions, okay? You're looking for a long tail response. What questions do you have for me? What specifically? You're as specific as possible, and you root out as many of these until there's nothing left. You'll get to a point where the person's like, you know what, Allan, I've got no more questions. That's completely fine. Let's push ahead. That's what you'll want to. So the goal is use open-ended questions when you are trying to get more context. Sometimes it can be uncomfortable, right? Because you're getting the person to think and you just want to make it easy for them. But remember, you're doing this out of their best interest. You truly want to help them get towards their goals. And so for that reason, you want to identify and find out what are the questions or gaps in their knowledge that they have. And you want to continue to stay in that pocket until you have got the go-ahead and say, you know what, Allan, absolutely no more questions. Let's carry on. If you would like to see a system in terms of client acquisition to get you to a stage where we work with you to incorporate open-ended questions into your sales process, along with a whole bunch of other stuff, there should be a link to booking a call down below, but you don't have to. It's absolutely fine. Otherwise, I hope this has given you some confidence that you can go out and start using open-ended questions in your conversation to truly help people get towards their goal. My name's Allan Whatmore. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will speak to you soon.